if this is not a sterling fucking example of the fact that you must do research if you are going to know what is going on,
yes,
I don't know what is. What's up, everyone? Thank you so much for being with us today. This is the Deviance Welcome podcast, brought to you by Volatile Patience. I am John, and with me, as always, my co-host, Cel. Say hi to the people, Cel.
Hi, the people.
Fantastic. How you doing today, Cel?
I'm recovering from a cold, but I'm mostly recovered. Just kind of got to clear all the junk out.
Yeah, that's the fun part.
Beyond that, I got like 10, 11 hours of sleep last night, and I'm feeling all right.
All right.
I'm hungry.
Yeah, well, maybe the hanger will kick in by the end of the pod and make it a little bit more
I'm
entertaining.
already hangry.
Yeah, well, you're like the Hulk. You're always hangry. So this week, while everybody was listening to the rhetoric around Leah Thomas competing and winning an NCAA swimming event, we decided to go a very different route.
Yeah, we did.
And everybody was talking about Leah Thomas, and I wonder why that is.
Because the NCAA did nothing wrong. They basically have things broken down. It is NCAA, right?
NCAA, yes.
NCAA. You made that face. I was like, but okay. Anyway, as I was saying, they have it broken down by the way that I think is scientifically the best way to do it, which is if you have started any kind of hormone replacement therapy, you compete as whatever gender you were assigned at birth. And if you have started hormone therapy and been on it for X period of time, then you can compete as the gender you are.
Well, I'm going to save that discussion for next week because we're definitely going to touch on it.
Okay.
But
that's all I got to say about it.
The reason that, and I have a bit of a different opinion on that one. Okay. So we're going to get into it next week.
Oh, ooh, okay.
Yeah, teaser. Show up next week for that discussion. But this week, we decided to go with a topic you maybe didn't hear. Because honestly, I had to go digging for this one. You were like, let's do this topic. And I'm like, but when I Google stuff, I don't find that. And it's probably because...
Did you try Binging it?
Huh?
Did you try Binging it?
I found it eventually. I mean, a little bit. By not doing a very big dig, meant I didn't go past the first page of Google results.
Right. Gotcha.
But there's probably a real good reason why it is that you didn't hear about this topic, and it's because the mainstream media outlets that you listen to were the ones dead center of this controversy.
In a way, yeah.
And like there's definitely some cases to be made where the mainstream media kept this off your radar.
To a certain extent. But we are going to discuss what I have affectionately dubbed Little Biden's laptop. Is that the name of the episode?
You like that one? Yeah, it is. You like that one? Sometimes I come up with the episode names before, sometimes after. This one just hit me, and I like it.
Yep.
So that's what that's going to be. So you want to give us a little bit of the background on this one?
Okay, little bit of the background is like way back last Thursday. That's a meme. You don't know about it, but it is. Last Thursday, little Hunter Biden was in all kinds of hot water because his vice president dad, that's what we're talking about in terms of last Thursday, vice president dad, was getting heckled, I guess, a bit over some contents of little Hunter Biden's laptop that he left at the repair shop.
Right.
In it, there was some incriminating evidence with regards to nepotism and his whole, six-figure job that he had working for some Ukrainian energy company or something like that. Yeah, it was like something that happened in the news for like 15 minutes while Biden was running for president later. And then it just kind of disappeared as a story, with the only publication that printed anything about it being owned by a cult.
Yeah. And I do remember during that last election cycle hearing about a laptop. Mm-hmm. But I did not hear much more, and it wasn't on our pod list, right. So I didn't dig into it too far.
Sure. Which is sometimes why I'm like, no, let's do this topic just so you have a reason to be informed about this thing.
Sure, that's why. I believe you. And while he's over there brushing his shoulders off, when I heard about this initially, it was just a blip on the radar for me at the time during the election cycle because, it's just, he's talking about this, he's talking about that. Yeah. Who has the time to dig into what's true, blah, 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 whatever.
Sure, because sometimes it's hard.
Right. Well, and come to find out when I'm digging into this that, the media response initially was purposely that way. They purposely kept it off the radar. Not so much that they were like, we're going to keep this out of the limelight so people can't hear it. The initial controversy from what I read from the on the prompter response from most of these publications were they didn't trust how the source was acquired. Yeah, they didn't trust how they got the information.
There was a chain of custody issue, which, to be fair,
and it's a fair point.
There's a certain degree of legitimacy to that, for sure. But also, there are ways to verify the authenticity of things, even with chain of custody issues. At least for the level of we're reporting this to the media because this person, his father, is trying to become president.
Right.
Versus court of law. Right. Like court of law, chain of custody, and stuff like that. You got to be damn sure of your level of authentication of this information. But court of public opinion,
right,
you're trying to put somebody into the highest position in the most powerful, or the militarily most powerful and wealthiest country in the world. You're trying to put somebody in power on that. Shit like this, to me, maybe matters.
Yeah.
At least matters enough that it's something that should be more than a blip on the opposition's radar.
Right. And like I mentioned, most of the publications that spoke out about it said the reports got buried under questions about how the papers got the info.
Yeah.
So, and I heard bits about how Trump's lackey, Rudy Giuliani, was on a mission
to find anything.
Digging up dirt on Biden or Hunter Biden or
anybody,
any Biden associates he could find because it was election season. We need propaganda. We need something for those awful, awful campaign commercials.
Yes.
Right? We need something to fill them with because we can't just call him old every time. So,
but seeing how that runs, I don't know. It might have been effective if they had just gone that route.
Maybe. Who knows? Well, I don't know. We're going to get into the possibilities as to whether or not that would have changed the election anyway. A little bit later on in the episode.
Yeah.
But it came up during one of the debates. I didn't watch the debates, thank God, because I heard the one. I think the only one, didn't they?
Yeah,
wasn't it just one?
Had one, maybe two,
and it was just like childish bickering the whole time. That just was so embarrassing.
Yes.
Like, fuck all that.
Yes.
But
I felt dumber watching it.
I'm sure. But
I would love whatever quote unquote energy drink they gave Biden before that. I want that recipe because he was spunky. He was the spunkiest I've seen him in a while, but
cocaine is a hell of a drug. But yeah, I didn't bother watching those debates because I didn't want to hear children bicker.
Oh, it was...
At that point, I was coaching a soccer team, so I got that anyway.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And they actually argued better than the two people that were supposed to be campaigning to run our country.
Yeah.
It was embarrassing. But it was... The laptop thing was put forth dismissed as a Russian op.
Yeah. Everything's Russian propaganda
Of
now.
course.
Everything.
Blame it on the Russians.
We will inevitably be called Russian propaganda, just so you know.
I'm sure. Absolutely. Yep. But we had 50 former national security and intelligence officers alleging that this was a Russian operation.
Yeah.
50.
50.
That's not a small number of officials.
Now, to be fair, we are talking about a guy who was like in Ukraine for a while. So
a guy. What about the other 49 of them? What about the other 49 of them?
No. I'm talking about Hunter Biden himself was in Ukraine. You know what I mean?
Right.
That's all I'm saying.
Right, but 50 people came out. 50 high-ranked people
Yes.
in the intelligence community came out and said this was, in support of this. Saying that this was just a Russian propaganda or operation.
Which is fantastic in the sense of like they all came forward and said this thing. And now we know it's not that.
Because we have evidence. It went so far as to, social medias in this country were suppressing that information.
They took it off of lists.
Twitter prevented users from sharing links by showing them a message that said we can't complete this request because the link has been identified by Twitter or our partners as being potentially harmful. Not untrue, but potentially harmful.
Just potentially harmful.
Right. And it went so far as to it even suspended the New York Post's account completely until the paper agreed to delete its tweets on the matter.
Which is weird because it wasn't, if I remember correctly, the New York Post that actually broke the story initially way back when. It was the Washington Times.
Right. And Facebook altered its algorithms so that it didn't place the posts linking that particular story highly in people's news feeds. So, it wasn't nearly as egregious as Twitter.
Right.
If what they're saying is accurate.
Is accurate.
Right.
Yeah.
But even still, there's evidence that they did something to suppress it a bit.
There was some, let's keep this one low on the radar.
Right. They essentially did everything they could to keep it from us. A lot of the opinions I've heard are this was strictly just to make sure that Biden got the presidency because we needed to get out from underneath Trump.
Yeah.
That's an opinion that I heard, an opinion that I heard a few times.
Sure.
So I'm not going to bother citing a source on that one because it's somebody's opinion.
It's somebody's opinion. And who those people are,
that opinion holds water. I can see that.
Yeah, there would be a large or a significant percentage of this country in a lot of different places who would be looking at that situation and kind of go, yeah, no.
Right.
Like we need to get out from underneath Trump.
Right.
Would have been their opinion. And going so far as to suppress information toward that end, I could see that happening.
Yeah. And now we have evidence that it happened.
Yes.
Like it actually happened.
Yes.
And there's egg on faces now.
Yes.
There's no going back from this.
Right.
So like the media response now is acknowledging this stuff. Like now they're finally saying,
by the way, it's actually a true thing.
We got this story back before the election.
Right.
And
we didn't touch it because we couldn't authenticate anything. But we've authenticated everything now and yeah.
And yeah. Oops.
Oops.
Sorry.
My bad.
Right. I heard the New York Times slipped the acknowledgement of the story's accuracy deep in a report about Hunter Biden's mounting legal problems. So they're just trying to slip it in wherever they can so they can be like, wait, no, we told you this one time.
In this one article.
In this one sentence, right? This one little sentence built in the middle of this paragraph.
Article
right.
that is titled Hookers and Blow, the Hunter Biden story.
Right. Paragraph 7, Article 6. It's right there. We put it there. Yeah, the font type is a little bit smaller. I'm sorry. We were running low on ink that day. But it's there. You can't say we didn't.
Look, nobody actually reads a newspaper anymore, John.
That's true. Accurate.
We needed pixel space for advertising.
Right. There you go. Right. We had to make sure that the important stuff was above the fold. Industry term. When pressed about it, Biden's press secretary said, and I quote, "Hunter Biden is a private citizen. I direct you to his representatives." When asked if they're going to do anything about this.
And to be clear, the big thing about this is, yes, this was nepotism. Yes, this was buying political influence. to a VP. You know what I mean? Like, so there is a certain degree of like within this stuff, there is some potentially incriminating stuff of Biden, or at least at the very least, like highly ethically questionable.
There's a reason it was buried.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's a reason.
Yeah.
And it's very unlikely
that's the
that they couldn't authenticate the source.
At that time, it's very unlikely they couldn't. You know what I mean? Like, there was a time crunch on shit like that. You know what I mean? So, to a certain degree, I get where they're coming from when they use that as an excuse. Because it's a good one. It is, like, the best leg that they have to stand on.
It is the best leg.
It is
That's
right?
how you should put that. Because, let's face it, if they wanted to authenticate that information,
Quickly,
it would have been
yeah,
authenticated overnight. They would have gotten one of their 24-hour interns to go out and figure that shit out, right? Mm-hmm. They get the call or they get the info at midnight, and the intern turns it in by 6 a.m. right before so it can be hot off the presses the next day.
Right.
I know nobody does the paper. I'm just using those terms.
Sure.
But if they wanted to, they could have.
Yeah.
I mean, just didn't put the effort in.
Basically.
It was irresponsible to follow the story because we didn't trust how the source was acquired.
Right. Yeah. Which, I mean, there's probably mountains of shitty information out there that just comes from bad sources.
Of course.
You know, I mean, that's like if I'm trying to toss them any kind of a bone to be like any kind of a fair interlocutor, like I will be as fair with the liberal media as I am with Chinese media.
Fair is fair. But this does kind of beg the question. Like, I feel like anybody who pays attention knows full well that the government keeps their secrets.
Oh, yeah.
That the media is helping the government keep their secrets.
Yes, absolutely.
I think anybody who pays it, if you don't believe that, I've got oceanfront property in Ohio to sell you right goddamn now.
Right. If you are not skeptical of this at all, I'm sorry, if you are skeptical of this at all in any way, shape, or form, and just like incredulous is the word I'm looking for.
$10 word.
Yes, but it's the perfect word for how it is, right? If you are incredulous about this, then you are a level of gullible that I want to sell shit to.
Right. Absolutely. Let's talk about investing in my music career, okay?
Because, right?
Man. But, I mean, it's one of those things where when you think about this as a private citizen,
sure,
you think my government is lying to me.
All the time.
And all the time, right? Like, and that sucks. It sucks.
And as far as I really understand it, it's basically accepted fact by like 80% of the population.
Well, yeah. I mean, you would think. But that does kind of raise the question, like, and I'm not talking about as far as Hunter Biden's laptop goes.
Sure.
But are there things that should be kept secret? I feel like there is a case that, some things should be kept secret. I don't like that they're kept secret from me because I view myself as a functional adult that can process information and not act rashly, right?
Yeah.
But I do acknowledge very much that there is a large part of our population that cannot. And that part of the population can be very dangerous.
Yeah.
You know?
Sure.
So, I mean, it's one of those things where it's like, yeah, I'm pissed that I'm not getting the information, but I'm also kind of happy that dude over here that's, 12 beers deep and polishing his shotgun on the fucking porch also doesn't get that information.
Right. Now here's the thing, though, is that in the liberal media not touching this one, the conservative media did.
Uh-huh.
And
well, of course they did.
I think when we're thinking of the people who are potentially the most dangerous, it is a subsection of conservatives in this country.
Yep.
And what ended up happening is with this situation with them refusing to touch it is that the conservative media got to control the narrative on it.
Right.
It became the worst possible version of events.
Of course.
Now, here's the thing. At this point, that's what we have as far as what was on that laptop is the conservative media narrative.
Right.
Right? It is the worst possible version because they were doing it to try and fucking take down a political opponent.
They're not going to tell you that there's 10 of the 10,000 emails that they went through, there's one that's incriminating and 9,999 that are about nothing.
I mean, well, they're not going to say that, but like at the same time, like if you look at, well, maybe not your email, but if you look at my email, I have 30,000 emails, and if I have one that's incriminating, that's the only one that matters.
That's the only one that matters. You're exactly right.
Right. So like however many email, however much data was there is irrelevant ultimately in the sense of like by refusing to touch the story, they ceded the story to the opposition's narrative.
Yeah.
Right. And now like, I mean, like I said, it was first broke by a publication that's owned by a cult.
Yeah.
Like, I mean that literally. That wasn't a joke. That was like, it is owned by the Moonies. Right? So this is and they are a staunchly conservative cult.
Okay.
Right? So they were like, if I remember correctly, like they were instrumental in getting like Reagan elected or some shit. Right? Like they've been around a long time and they have been running in conservative circles for a long fucking time.
Right.
And they got to control the narrative.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like a literal cult got to control the narrative on this one. So what it really comes down to now is like, how incriminating is it really? Because we don't know. We as citizens cannot actually look at it.
God, no.
You know what I mean? Like we're still getting it first and second hand. So now we're stuck with, well, the only evidence that we're actually getting a hold of is the conservative media narrative version.
Right.
Right. So like, is it that? I want to have something to check against. You know what I mean? Like that's the thing that infuriates me the most about all this is I don't have checks.
It's hard to
one way or another.
It's hard to do the type of research we suggest where you look at the one side, look at the other, and look overseas when you're only getting the one side.
Right. Exactly.
Because the other side was like, no, we're not.
We're not touching this one because so now
we don't even want to acknowledge it exists until after our guy won.
Right. And that's the thing. So you have one side that's like, I absolutely do not want to touch this. And the other side that's like, hey, yo, this is incriminating as fuck.
And the fact that they're not saying anything is shady.
And the fact that so now when I'm looking at the evidence, I now have to look at the conservative media fucking cult narrative on this one is actually the most legitimate interpretation of what this situation is.
Right.
Right. And that hurts me.
Yeah, because, well, and let's face it, getting through the spin is so much easier to do when you have that check source.
Right.
When you can look and because you're still getting spin from the other side.
Right.
But you're getting you can find the intersection there.
Right.
And
of
by
the actual
looking
real thing.
Right. And looking at both, you can see, okay, here's where they overspun, here's where they overspun, and this is this little section here.
Right.
Like you're making your Venn diagram, right? And this little sliver here is what's actually
that's the thing that's the real thing.
Exactly. And that's
I like held up my hands. You guys didn't see it, but I held up my hands and made like a fucking pussy with it.
Wow. I love how I went there. And that further asks the question, like, was it bad enough that it would have affected the election?
Right.
Personally, myself, giving it some thought as you posed the question over the week.
Yeah.
I'm not so sure. Because I feel like at that point,
right,
the country was so done with Trump and his people and his fucking cult and all their
he was
bullshit.
Entertaining.
We were
and
done with the maggots, right? We were done.
Right.
So I don't think anything could have, like, how the year before or the election cycle before, just after that, right?
Trump,
just after that, one of the most common memes was the one where Trump was imitating the disabled reporter.
Yeah.
And the caption says, I will never understand how this was not the last straw.
Right.
This will, and this type of situation with Hunter Biden's laptop, I feel like it just would have been the same narrative coming from the conservative side.
Sure.
I'll never understand how little Biden's laptop wasn't the final straw.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
You liberal fuckers ruined my country, and you had a laptop that proved. I'm like,
But the alternative is the other guy.
well, see,
right?
That's
Like,
my point. I feel like it wouldn't have done whatever is on that short of
Dick pics.
Joe Biden, like sending dick pics or having child pornography, and maybe even not that.
Right.
But like I feel like short of anything that egregious, like he is beheading people on camera,
Right.
wouldn't have actually swayed enough votes to
really
make
have
that
made a
even
difference
relevant.
on that
So
one.
like I feel like this is one of those situations where one of my kids' favorite movies growing up was Kung Fu Panda, and they had the turtle that was real prophetic. One of his favorite things is one often meets his destiny on the road he takes to avoid it. So
Okay.
I feel like
Yeah.
this is one of those situations where trying to do a damage control operation just made things so much worse.
Yeah.
And it wouldn't have been a problem in the first place because we are so tuned in this country to just kind of, blocking out the propaganda. We see it on the commercials and we're like, yeah, all right, he's shaming the one person, he's shaming the other, and like,
Well,
we get kind of desensitized to
I think
it.
some of us are tuned to blocking out the propaganda,
Maybe.
and I think some
Maybe
people
that's just me.
like absorb it like a sponge. You know what I mean?
Those are the people that don't have anything to talk about because they get all their talking points from the mainstream media.
Right.
Right?
Right.
Those of us who read beyond the big words at the top. Right? We don't necessarily have that problem. And maybe I'm assuming more people are like me than, are.
I think you are.
But I personally, it wouldn't have. Okay, so then for me,
Yeah.
it wouldn't have even moved the needle.
Right.
I wouldn't have cared. By the time I voted, I know you didn't vote for Biden.
I was already not voting for both of them.
Right. But when I was going to the polls, I never swayed because I was done with Trump's bullshit.
Sure.
I was done watching an inexperienced reality TV star just make a mockery of an already laughable government, right?
Yeah, because
Like,
it wasn't good before Trump.
No. Obama didn't do a good job. Didn't do
honestly,
it. Like, no.
Honestly, watching between the transition from Obama to Trump to Biden, they're all basically the same policy. The problem was just that Trump was mask off.
Right.
You know what I mean? And for me, like what it really comes down to is old incompetent mask on version, old incompetent mask off version.
Right.
I don't give a shit because it's the same. They're still doing the same policy. It's still really the same people in charge calling the shots on this shit.
Yep. Well, and I think for me, looking back on it now, is because you're right. They're essentially the same thing. Mm-hmm. With, the talking points are slightly different and the promises are slightly different,
Right.
but nothing's still getting done anyway.
They're off by percentages.
Right.
They are literally marginally different.
But when I'm looking back on it, I wonder if it was more just Trump was straight up disrespectful because mask off.
I mean,
He would like every president with the mask on was still spitting in the face of the American public.
sure.
Right? Trump went golfing on your dime on camera.
Right.
Regularly. Was
Every
just
weekend.
like, fuck you. Here is me showing you my finger.
Right.
And like, I don't know. Looking back, I feel like that's more of what it was. But I don't think it would have made a difference.
No.
Blocking all this.
Honestly, I agree with you. I don't think it would have made a difference either. I think with what was going on in the world with COVID and blah, blah, blah. Well, COVID wasn't. COVID was.
We were a year in.
We were a year in. Yep. So with COVID
Almost
and everything else like that going on, granted, Biden has had the vaccine available the whole time.
Trump's vaccine.
Yeah, Trump's vaccine, sure. Has been
Bunny ears.
Right. Right.
Depending on who you ask. He's had the vaccine.
He's had the vaccine this whole time, and over the same time period, more people have died under Biden.
Mm-hmm. Well, the
You know what I
Trumpers
mean?
don't want to take it. That's the main one.
Yeah,
right? That's
right.
the main argument.
Oh wait, are they suicide culting?
Maybe
via fucking COVID in order to like make Biden's numbers worse, so that
my God.
wouldn't that be wild if that was the psychology behind that whole thing? I'm sorry guys, I'm high this time. So you're putting up with me coming up with the weird shit.
You don't even need to drink the Kool-Aid. Breathe deep. Like, what? No, you're cut off. You're done. You're done. He's getting his tolerance back. I apologize for that outburst, people. But no, I don't think it would have made a difference at all.
No, I don't think so either. But holy shit, like God.
It's interesting to think that, now we have that evidence, like how everybody was saying, oh, the media is suppressing you, suppressing you. And like those of us who know better. Right. But now, even the people who just read the headlines will have a headline that says, yeah, they're lying to you.
Right.
They're suppressing this. They're not telling, if they're not bunny ears lying to you.
Sure.
They're not always giving you the whole story.
Right.
And welcome to the party. Those of us who pay attention have known this for a long time.
Sure.
I haven't even been paying attention that long. I just read past the headlines. I've been reading past the headlines for how long have we been doing this podcast?
A little over a year if we count the break.
So I've been actively reading past the headlines.
We're on episode, 56?
54, 55. I don't know. Either way, we've been doing this for about a year or so, and it's safe to say that previously I was paying a little bit of attention, but in the last year, that has become painfully obvious. So those of you who didn't read past the headlines now can join the party of those of us who were paying attention, and it's painfully obvious.
Right.
This is the world you live in.
Yes.
The only chance you have is to look at other sources.
Yes.
That's the only... If this is not a sterling fucking example of the fact that you must do research if you are going to know what is going on.
Yes.
I don't know what is.
Right.
It basically just slapped you in the face. Well, thank you so much for checking us out today. This has been Deviance Welcome. You can check out more episodes and get access to the latest everything on the website, volatilepatients.com. There, you can sign up to the mailing list and tell us what kind of topics you'd like to hear. Check out the sock meds if that's your thing, facebook.com/volatilepatientsmusic.
On Twitter, it's going to be spelled weird at VOLATYLPATIENCE because Twitter did not give us enough characters.
Thank you, Twitter.
And spelled normally on Instagram at volatile_patients because Instagram did give us enough characters.
Thank you, Instagram. You can check out the YouTube channel at Deviance Welcome. Or you could check out the Volatile Patients specific YouTube channel at Volatile Patients. Check out the Deviance Welcome Facebook group where you can continue the discussion with us. Remember to give us a review on Apple. And like I said at the end of the podcast, you've been given an example.
Yeah.
They know they've now shown it to everybody.
Right.
That
this
they
is
have
this
the
is
ability.
mask off version for the media.
Right. They have the ability to spin what you see and make it very difficult for you to find the information that's actually out there if they want to.
Yeah.
So do your research.
Yes.
And pay attention.
Yes. Look at who they suppress.
Right. Look beyond. Look at more than one publication. If you want to argue about something on social media, read 3 articles from different sources before you do so.
Oh, man, that would be really good.
Wouldn't it? And with that, we'll see you next week. Say bye to the people, Cel.
Bye, the people.